wristbands, t-shirts, rub-on tattoos. It's called, What Would Satan Do? I don't know why no one's thought of it, but it's my idea, so if you steal it from me, I'm going to sue you. What would Satan do? If in every situation in our lives, we go, what would Satan do? Well, basically, that's pretty much what we're thinking of doing. Wow. Okay, maybe that's an extreme generalization about most of you. But when that whole campaign for What Would Jesus Do started, which I thought was great, I do think it's great. I think it's great for people to think in this situation, what would Jesus do right now? I think it's always interesting to find out what people think Jesus would do, because it's always what they want Jesus to do, or what they would do if they were God. But what would Satan do? I think it'd be fascinating to, what would Satan do? And obviously I'm being facetious, and I'm not going to start a satanic movement, though I've given it some thought. That I do think that we need to have more of an understanding of our adversary. And I am a very strong proponent for not spending a lot of time harping on demons and deliverance and the spiritual realm in that sense. But Jesus himself addressed the subject of Satan. So it seems logical that periodically we have to address the subject of Satan. And Jesus said in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 10, that Satan comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And when I was preparing for tonight, I went online and I looked up this scripture, and I found someone's short written sermon on this. And I thought it was very interesting because they mentioned the three little pigs. And if you think about it, it's a really good story to point out a lot of what Jesus was saying about where you build your house. In fact, it's exactly what Jesus was saying about where you build your house, what you make your fortress out of. And everybody knows that, one pig built his house with straw, another pig built his house with sticks and stones, and the last pig built his house with brick. And it was the brick house that made it to number one with a bullet. Oh, I get so confused. That's the Commodore song. I love that song. Praise the Lord. I don't love it as much as I did before I was a Christian. And but I am doing it on my next record. Wouldn't that be funny if I did a version of Brick House? I think I'm going to do that. Maybe that would go viral, and then people would hear all my other songs. But Jesus says that Satan comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And wherever you find loss, death, or destruction, you find the work of the devil. And truthfully, that should be sufficient for the evening. I mean, it's really point A to point B, and let's pray and move on. But it becomes very complicated when you add the element of flesh. Because I've said before, we don't need a devil in our life because we have our flesh. I've said before that Satan is just an angel, and he can't be everywhere at one time. So we can't keep blaming stuff on the devil. I will tell you, if you ever want to teach on this, if you ever want to talk to anybody about this stuff, do not expect to feel comfortable doing it. Do not expect to feel safe doing it. Do not expect the phlegm ball to ever leave. Do not expect anything you say to make sense coming out of your, you know what I'm saying? I am what? A minute into this and my brains are scrambled. I'm totally cool with that. I was sneaky, meaning God was sneaky and didn't tell me so that I didn't plan this till very late in the day. If I planned this in the morning, I would have had quite the day. The one thing I know is Satan exists, and somehow, some way, he knows about me. That I know. Now, that having been said, I want to say this. I could care less about the angels. I could care less about angels, but I don't really recommend you guys talk like that. Because it doesn't sound very nice. Because we associate angels with God. And rightly so. Because they're the ones who live with God when we don't, face to face. But I could care less about them. I go days, weeks, months, years without thinking about angels. In fact, 99% of the time in the last 29 years that I've thought about angels is when I've read about one in the Bible. But most of the time, they're in the Old Testament, and most of the time, that's actually an appearance of the Lord Jesus Christ. That is a representative of God, as opposed to being an angel in its real translation. But I don't think much about angels. Now, I'm not going to spend time talking about it tonight, but I have told the story before of when I spent time with an angel. See, chills, goosebumps, just by saying it. So it's not that I don't respect them, but I can care less about them. I don't think about them. You know what I'm saying? There's just some things that I don't think about. You know, if it pops up in my life, you know, okay, cool. I don't think about Garth Brooks. I got nothing against Garth Brooks, but I don't think about Garth Brooks. Well, you think about him enough, use him as an example. Well, I was going through my head all the different things I could bring up that I don't think about much, and I finally came up with something I really don't think about much. I don't think about Garth Brooks very much. A friend of mine wrote songs with Garth Brooks, so every once in a while I hear one of the songs and I think about Garth Brooks. Every once in a while I think about my friend or talk to my friend, I think about Garth Brooks. I got nothing against Garth Brooks. If you came to me and said I have tickets to a Garth Brooks concert in Las Vegas, I'd be hot damn. I totally want to go. Oh, you just said you could care less about Garth Brooks. I could care less about Garth Brooks. If I never heard him again, I'd live. If I heard him again, I'd be fine. I could care less. No feeling one way or the other. Nothing wrong with him, nothing right with him. I don't know the guy. But he sure is popular. There's a lot of people going, well, I sure could care a lot about Garth Brooks. Well, God bless you. Thank God he made my friend a lot of money. Made her a star. God bless him. Seems like a nice guy. I could care less. It would be weird for me to, every time I talk about the things about God, to bring up Garth Brooks. That would be weird for me. Oh, by the way, he hosted Saturday Night Live and it was hilarious. It was like the best host on Saturday Night Live I can remember. Best celebrity host, especially the mango gag. Funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh, could have lived my whole life, never seen it, wouldn't have known about it, could care less. Has nothing to do with God. A lot of talent, a lot of well-deserved success, actually. From a songwriting perspective, somewhat of a genius. I could care less. There's nothing to do with God. Wrote some songs to sound like they were about God. I could care less. There's nothing to do with God. When I pray, I don't think about Garth Brooks. When I think about the face of Jesus, I don't see Garth Brooks. But I do know one thing, is Garth Brooks is higher than the angels. That I know. I read that in the Bible. Of course, it was Garth Brooks' Bible where he changed the word God made man, he changed it to God made me, higher than the angels, but he was right. Because the angels were created to serve God. And we were not created to serve the angels. The angels were a different entity to serve God. Kind of like cats and dogs. Well, God says, through our Savior, that we will be greater than the angels. We will judge the angels. So, my feeling about angels is sort of like how other people think about dogs and cats. Everybody knows I like dogs and cats more than people, and if you've ever met any people, you know why. But I do not preach to the animal kingdom because God gave humans souls. And I understand when I meet people who don't like dogs or cats, or who are allergic to dogs and cats. I mean, I don't hang out with them, but I understand. I understand. They have no interest. They could care less. Even those people were upset when they saw that guy on the news throw the cockapoo out on the freeway when he got mad at the woman for cutting him off. You know, but they see, my dog Skip or something and they cry a little bit, but they're not going to run out and buy one. They could care less. I understand. It's kind of how I see the angels. They're not my pets. They're not my pets. They're not mine. They're God's. Well, God has His angels watch over you. Really? Does He really? I don't know. Now, I've hung out with an angel before, and I walked off a curb at a different time, and a car came skidding around, and right when I was hanging off the curb, 1 foot off and 1 foot on, I heard a voice scream, "No!" And I turned and there was no one around, and I saw a glimpse of what I know to be an angel. That was really cool. Like, well, there you go. And I got on my knees and I worshiped the angel. No. I went, "You're one weird looking dude." Beautiful, weird, scary, amazing. Yeah, I don't know if I want to have coffee with you. You know what I'm saying? From another world. That's what really, I mean, I know what I saw was real. I know what I saw was real and wasn't human. That I know. And I was pretty good with it. But I just praise the Lord. Because I'm convinced a true encounter with an angel will cause you to worship Jesus. I'm convinced of that fact. So if I say I could care less about angels, then angels are doing their jobs. Because they're not drawing attention to themselves, they're drawing me back to Jesus. So if my attitude is angels are my stepping stones to Christ, and they're there to protect me and keep me walking with Christ, basically I'm saying they're my servants. And I think an angel would agree with me and say, we may not be crazy about his terminology here, but we are here to serve him so that he can serve him. And that's the goal. So Satan is one of those guys, a peon from heaven, who thought that system was unreasonable. Now, obviously, if a band of angels showed up here, I'd eat my shoe. I'd be like, you're right, you guys rock. Here, I'll sweep, you know. But Satan wanted more. Satan wanted to be superstar. He wanted to be a rock star. He wanted to be God. He wanted more, and he gathered 1/3 of these angelic hosts. And I love that they're called hosts, because that's really what we're talking about. They're there to make your stay more comfortable. That's what they're there for. They're there to keep you safe. They're there to keep you walking on the right path. They're there to say, follow the yellow brick road. You know what I'm saying? They're just little midgets. Them angels. They're so small we can't see them. Oh, but we sure like to make artwork about them and jewelry and folklore and songs. Okay, I love the show Touched by an Angel, I admit it. But it did make me cringe. Was that love? Same thing with Highway to Heaven. I had the same problem with both shows. I sat there and I went, on one hand, they're really, really introducing on an incredibly baby level something about Jesus. But on the other hand, they're creating a cult unto themselves. And it was hard for me because, I mean, Highway to Heaven was really good. And Touch by an Angel was even better. I mean, they were both really effective. But so was The Love Boat, you know? So what do I know about art? You know, I mean, I was able to differentiate what I was watching and what I know to be true, but I would have a hard time with an 8-year-old child saying, well, let's watch the show together, let's talk about Jesus and what's really going on here. I would have a hard time with that. And I think that Christianity today has a lot of angelology going on in it. A lot of stuff. And for me, it's like spiritual junk food, is how I see it. Like, and as someone who lives on junk food, to say I have a love-hate relationship with spiritual junk food probably makes a lot of sense. That on one hand, I think it's bad to eat a box of Twinkies every day. But I don't think it's right for a birthday to go by without cupcakes. They're the same thing. But I think that's the reality of the subject of angels, is that I have someone here who wrote a song called Angel that I think is phenomenal, even though I think that the assumption people have that when we die we become angels is really just a fairy tale. Even though that takes place in her song, I think it fits the circumstance, it fits knowing the person, it fits knowing the songwriter, and it fits because it doesn't come off as I'm trying to sell the fairy tale. It comes off as I want to believe you can still see me. You see what I'm saying? And again, I wouldn't want to have to explain that to an 8-year-old child, but I think the song shouldn't be changed at all and deserves to be heard. Again, Twinkies and cupcakes. It's the same thing, but totally different. And if I really could have made the stretch from Twinkies to a wedding cake. You know what I'm saying? You know, they're not even in the same food group. But Satan is one of those things. He's a Twinkie. He's a useless, pointless, no food value thing that's stuffed in our spiritual lunch bags, and we devour, whether we like it or not, our whole lives. And every single piece of him that breaks off into our system attaches to something else that's weak about us and creates in us a monster that ends up being just like him. So Jesus said, don't be saying Abraham is your father. Satan is your father. That's who your daddy is. And Satan is like angels. He's part of a mythology. He's a fairy tale. He's also real, but he's also a fairy tale. I mean, you look at things like Twilight or Harry Potter, Satan's real, but he's a fairy tale. And I'm not criticizing either, though I don't really like either, but, you know, I like horror movies. But horror movies, again, Satan's evil, but he's a fairy tale. The new Final Destination movie came out today. Not that I pay attention to things like that. It's horror. Oh, you know, gosh. If she gets her eyeballs cut out, I bet we can actually feel them. So, saw the previews for it. I was like, God, I can get there tonight before the theaters close. But again, is that God chasing everyone to kill them because they were supposed to die, or is it Satan making them keep an appointment? Who are they battling in the movie, God or Satan? All these things say God or Satan all over them. But Satan's a fairy tale, and God becomes a fairy tale, and God, I lay me down to sleep. What? If I should die before I wake? I mean, weird stuff. Nursery rhymes have God in them, and God is a fairy tale. But real. Because it's the myth and the man. It's the myth and the entity. Jesus is real and a fairy tale. Jesus is one of the most used figures in art. Music, literature, film, paintings. And he's a mythical character. He's real. And he's a fairy tale. It's all over the map. Every single thing that we need to know as much about as possible to walk the walk and live the lives we were created to live have become fairy tales in our society. In us. I mean, I'm sorry, but I could sit any Christian down and interview them and come up with all types of weird fairy tales and superstitions that have become part of their belief system. I'm sure someone could do that with me. I dare them, but I'm sure someone could find something. Some kind of weird goo-goo muck I've swallowed. But when it comes to Satan, it is like believing you don't need a seatbelt, or that there's no such thing as gravity, or fire doesn't burn, or you can shoot a gun and it won't injure someone. I mean, it's life-threatening when Satan becomes a fairy tale. So Jesus said Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. If I were teaching a college class on how to be a Christian, if this were school, I would make everyone in the world, sit down and write on a piece of paper as many things they could come up with that they know firsthand that Satan has stolen. And everything that they know firsthand that Satan has killed, and everything Satan has destroyed. And if anyone came back with less than 100 things in each category, I'd say, nope. Keep working on it. Keep working on it. I was thinking about this today. I was going, aside from telling stories about my life, this is the easiest subject for me to talk on. Much more than talk about the Lord. I can talk about how bad it is because of Satan till I have no more talk left in me. I could stand here and talk until I die of 100 years old. You know? And just keep talking. And probably not repeat the same thing over and over again. Because there is such damage because of what Satan did. There's such damage. And of course I'm talking about the exact same thing that I talk about what happened when we sinned in the garden. What happened right then and there. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, except Adam and Eve are dead. And Satan hasn't aged a bit. He's just as ferocious and clever and cunning, and rumor has it, handsome, as he ever was. But what he has over thousands of years is a lot of experience. A lot of experience in human nature. He knows exactly what we're going to do before we do it. Not like God does. He can just guess because we are so predictable. We're so predictable. And Jesus said that Satan comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And we write it off as Satan's really bad and move on. Instead of going, well, wait a minute. I mean, at least Winnie the Pooh. I mean, seriously, a very important character in the Bible. Winnie the Pooh. If you've ever seen when Winnie listens to Tigger about the heffalumps and woozles, what happens to his eyes, the horror in that poor bear's eyes at the thought of these terrible creatures that are going to come and try to steal his honey. Then he goes to sleep and he has this horrible technicolor nightmare about the heffalumps and woozles coming to get him. But you tell a Christian about the devil coming to steal, kill, and destroy. He's like, great. What's on TV tonight? Winnie the Pooh got it. And it was just heffalumps and woozles. Which, by the way, are elephants and weasels, and they really don't bother bears for their honey. That was a fairy tale. But he was so blown away by the conviction of Tigger, he believed it. Oh, and he really likes his honey and wants to make sure that no one will come and take it. Because he worked hard to get it. A lot of work being Pooh. And only eating one food. As silly as it sounds, when I can say with a straight face, Winnie the Pooh puts more value on the safety of his honey pot than most Christians do on their very souls. And it's not all that dumb anymore. Because Winnie the Pooh has no idea he's fictional. And obviously at least one of us seems to think he's real. But Winnie the Pooh has no idea that he's fictional. So his total existence is to reflect human nature. He's nothing like a bear. He's like a cute kid, an impressionable child. And Tigger is a very obnoxious, pushy, and convincing, a little bit older child. And so we relate to these stories like we do fairy tales because they really speak to us about us, either now or at some point, or someone we know. And we all know what it's like to have someone tell us a scary ghost story and then not be able to sleep that night. We all know what it's like to have someone trick us and spook us. Or someone who's really well-meaning telling us something that scares us, even though there's not a word of truth in it. We all know what that feels like. That's why we think Winnie the Pooh is cute. That's why we enjoy that stuff. At least I do. But you say to a Christian, you're that impressionable to fairy tales. You're that impressionable to people that are only a speck older than you in the Lord, if that. And you will actually believe there's such thing as a heffalump and a woozle. I'm telling you, go online and watch this stuff on YouTube. Watch what Christians believe. Watch what they talk about the different parts of heaven and this thing and this thing that they saw in heaven and this thing they saw in hell and this type of angel and this type of demon and this type of witch and this type of warlock and this type of energy and this type of manifestation. Heffalumps and woozles. I saw heffalumps and woozles. I saw them with my own eyes. They are scary. And they play their trunks. What's that about? For goodness sakes, it's just goo-goo muck. It's nothing. Ah, that's the problem. Heffalumps and woozles are nothing. They're harmless, and we know they're elephants and weasels, and if our kids get scared when we take them to see it, we tell them, they're just elephants and weasels. Tigger is a tiger who can't spell good. So he says Tigger because he thinks that's the pronunciation of his name because he can't spell it. Oh, okay, that actually makes sense. Not all the crap Christians throw out about angels and demons and God and heaven and hell and all the stuff. All the stuff. If I hear one more Christian tell me they're going to keep their fingers crossed, ooh, makes me mad. You know why it makes me mad? Because of the word crossed in the sentence. It's not just the stuff around it. It's the fact that I hear cross. You know what I'm saying? That makes me mad. You know, I have a terrible, terrible potty mouth.